I found the letter 3 days after my mother's funeral. Not in some romantic. Cinematic way where sunlight streams through dusty attic windows and a yellowed envelope falls perfectly into my lap. No, I found it while I was on my knees, sweating through my t-shirt, emptying out her bedroom closet because the estate sale company was coming that Friday. And I still hadn't dealt with her things. My mother died suddenly. A stroke, she was 62. We weren't estranged, exactly. But we weren't close either. Not the way I saw other mothers and daughters, the ones who texted each other memes, who had Sunday brunches, who knew each other's coffee orders by heart. My mother and I, we loved each other. I think, but there was always this quiet distance between us. Like we were standing on opposite sides of a glass door, able to see each other clearly, but never quite able to touch. I spent my whole life thinking it was just her personality. Reserved, private, a little cold, if I'm being honest. But that letter made me realize I didn't know her at all. The closet smelled like her lavender sachets and that drugstore hand cream she used religiously. I was pulling down shoeboxes, most of them filled with old tax documents and expired coupons, when I noticed something wedged behind the top shelf's back panel. It wasn't visible unless you stood on a chair and reached all the way in. A manila envelope, thick, sealed with packing tape that had yellowed with age. My name was written on it in her handwriting. Claire. Just my name, no explanation. No date. I sat down right there on the carpet, my heart doing this strange, uneven thing in my chest. My hands were shaking as I peeled back the tape. Inside, there was a single letter handwritten, on lined notebook paper, 8 pages, front and back. The paper was soft, like it had been folded and unfolded many times before being put away for good. The handwriting wasn't my mother's. It was a woman's handwriting, looping, elegant, a little unsteady in places. And it began. Asterisk to whoever finds this if you are reading this, then I am gone. And I have failed in the one thing I promised myself I would do before I died. Tell her the truth, asterisk. I read those first lines 3 times before my brain could process them. Her? Tell asterisk who asterisk. And what truth? I skimmed ahead, my eyes catching fragments, names I didn't recognize, places I'd never heard of, dates that made no sense. And then, halfway down the second page, I saw it. Asterisk Claire is not your daughter. She is mine, asterisk. I dropped the letter. My vision blurred. My ears were ringing. I picked it up again, read it again, and again. It didn't make sense. It couldn't. I don't know how long I sat there. The light in the room changed golden afternoon sun, fading into that soft blue twilight, but I didn't move. The letter sat in my lap, and my mind was racing, trying to make the pieces fit. Asterisk Claire is not your daughter. She is mine, asterisk. But my mother asterisk was asterisk my mother. I had baby photos. I had her stories about my birth, how I arrived 2 weeks early, how I screamed so loud the nurses joked I'd grow up to be an opera singer. I had a birth certificate with her name on it. How could this be real? I thought about calling someone, my older brother, maybe. But Michael and I hadn't been close in years. He'd moved to Oregon after college, and we only spoke on birthdays and holidays. Besides, what would I even say? Asterisk, hey, Mike, found a letter that says Mom isn't actually Mom thoughts? No. I needed to figure this out on my own first. I needed to understand what I was holding in my hands. My mother, Carol, was a public school librarian. She wore cardigans and reading glasses on a chain. She kept her hair short and practical. She didn't hug much, didn't say I love you easily. But she was steady, reliable. She showed up to every school event, every recital, every parent-teacher conference. When I was a teenager, I resented her for being so quiet, so closed off. I wanted a mother who asked about my feelings, who wanted to know about my crushes and my dreams. Instead, I got a mother who reminded me to do my homework and asked if I'd eaten breakfast. After I graduated college, I moved to the city for a marketing job. We'd talk once a week polite, surface-level conversations she never pried. I never volunteered much. And when she died, I felt this horrible, hollow guilt because I didn't know if I'd ever really known her. Now, sitting in her empty bedroom with this letter in my hands, I realized the feeling was mutual. She hadn't known me either. Because, apparently, I wasn't even hers. I made myself tea. I turned on the lamp. I sat at her kitchen table, the same table where we'd eaten 1,000 silent dinners, and I read the letter from beginning to end. It was written by a woman named Elena Morales. The letter was dated March 14, 2003, 22 years ago. I would have been 5 years old. Elena began by apologizing. She said she didn't know if this letter would ever be found, or if it even mattered anymore. But she needed to write it needed to say the things she'd kept buried for too long. She explained that she'd gotten pregnant at 19, unplanned, the father a man she described only as someone I thought I loved had disappeared the moment she told him. Her own family had disowned her. She had no money, no support, no plan. She kept me for 6 months. 6 months of trying to make it work living in a friend's basement, working double shifts at a diner, barely sleeping. She loved me, she said. Loved me so much it hurt. But she couldn't do it. She was drowning. And then she met my mother, Carol. Carol was a regular at the diner. They got to talking one day. Elena, exhausted and desperate, broke down and confessed everything. And Carol, who had always wanted children but couldn't have them, made an offer. Not adoption. Not officially. A private arrangement. Elena would sign over custody. Carol would raise me. And in exchange, Carol would make sure Elena could finish school, get back on her feet. She'd send photos, updates, but only for a while. After that, a clean break. Elena agreed. She said it was the hardest thing she'd ever done, but she thought it was the right thing. The letter ended with this. I have thought about you every single day. I have wondered if you're happy, if you're safe, if you've grown into the person I hoped you would be. Carol promised me she would love you like her own. I have to believe she kept that promise, If you're reading this, it means I never found the courage to tell you myself. I'm so sorry, You deserve to know. You deserve the truth, But I was too afraid, I hope you can forgive me, I hope you can forgive us both, Elena, I set the letter down. My hands were numb. Outside, a car alarm went off somewhere down the street. The sound felt far away, like it belonged to a different world. I sat there in my mother's kitchen, Carol's kitchen, and I realized I didn't know who I was anymore. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in my old childhood bedroom, still decorated with posters I'd hung in high school, still smelling faintly of the vanilla candles I used to burn, and I stared at the ceiling, replaying the letter in my mind over and over. Claire is not your daughter. She is mine, By the time the sun came up, I'd made a decision. I needed to find Elena Morales. I needed to know if she was still alive, if this was real. If was real. I started with Google. Elena Morales pulled up thousands of results, too many to sort through. I added the city where my mother had lived back then. Elena Morales, Riverside, California, Still too broad. I tried Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. Nothing matched. Then I remembered the diner. The letter had mentioned a diner where Carol and Elena had met. I called my mother's oldest friend, Diane, a woman who'd known Carol since they were in their 20s. Diane had brought a casserole to the funeral and hugged me stiffly, saying all the right things in that distant, obligatory way people do. Now I needed her to remember. Diane, hi. It's Claire. Oh, sweetheart, how are you holding up? I wasn't in the mood for pleasantries. I need to ask you something. Back when she first had me, do you remember anything unusual? Anything about where I came from? There was a long pause. Claire, what's this about? I closed my eyes. I found something in her things. A letter I just need to understand. Another pause, then quieter. What did the letter say? That she wasn't my biological mother. Silence. Diane? She exhaled slowly. I always wondered if you'd find out. My stomach dropped. You knew asterisk. Not much. Carol didn't tell me everything. But I knew she didn't give birth to you. I knew there was a woman young, I think. Carol helped her. It was all very private. Very quiet. Do you remember her name? No, I'm sorry, honey. Carol never said. What about the diner? Do you remember which one? God, that was so long ago. There was a place near the library where Carol used to grab lunch. Little family-owned spot. I think it closed down years ago. Do you remember the name? Rosie's, maybe. Or Rosita's. Something like that. Thank you, Diane. Claire, are you okay? I hung up before I had to answer. It took me 2 days of searching through old city records, calling the Chamber of Commerce, and scrolling through decades-old Yelp reviews before I found it. Asterisk Rosita's Family Diner, asterisk. Closed in 2011. But the building was still there. I drove out the following morning. It was a 40-minute drive from my mother's house through stretches of highway that felt both familiar and foreign, past strip malls and housing developments that hadn't existed when I was a kid. The building sat on a corner lot, faded and empty. The sign was gone, but I could still see the ghost of the letters where it used to hang. The windows were papered over. The parking lot was cracked and overgrown with weeds. I stood there, staring at it, trying to imagine my mother here. Trying to imagine a 19-year-old girl, desperate and terrified, handing over her baby. Handing over asterisk me asterisk. I almost left. I almost got back in my car, drove home, and buried that letter in the back of my own closet. Because if I kept digging, I knew there was no going back. I'd have to face the truth whatever it was. But then I thought about my mother, Carol, the woman who raised me, who packed my lunches and signed my permission slips and sat in the audience at every school play. Even though I could see how tired she was. Had she been protecting me or protecting herself? And Elena, this stranger who gave me life but couldn't keep me, did she spend the last 20 years wondering if I was okay? I realized something standing there in that empty parking lot. I needed to know. Not for them. For asterisk me asterisk. I went to the public library the next day, the same library where my mother had worked for 30 years. The head librarian, asterisk Margaret asterisk, had been Carol's colleague. She remembered me as a kid, running between the shelves while my mom worked late. I asked her if she remembered anyone named Elena Morales from back in the early 2000s. Margaret frowned. That name sounds familiar. Give me a second. She disappeared into the back office and returned a few minutes later with an old staff directory, a printed booklet from 2004. We used to have a volunteer program for high school students. Margaret said Elena Morales was one of them. Worked here for about 6 months, I think. Quiet girl, sweet. My heart was pounding. Do you have any contact information? Not anymore, but she flipped through the booklet. Her emergency contact was listed as an asterisk Rosa Morales asterisk. Could be her mother. She wrote down a phone number one that was probably 20 years out of date. I thanked her and left. I sat in my car in the library parking lot, staring at the number. I dialed. It rang 4 times. Then a woman answered, her voice older, accented. Hello. Hi, I'm looking for Elena Morales. Do you know her? A pause. Who is this? My name is Claire. I'm trying to find someone named Elena who used to work at a diner in Riverside. I think she might have known my mother. Another long pause. Then, Elena is my daughter. My breath caught. Is she still? She lives in San Diego now. She's a teacher. Why are you looking for her? I didn't know how to answer that. I found a letter, I said quietly. I think she wrote it a long time ago. I need to talk to her. Silence. Then Rosa said, her voice careful, I will ask her if she wants to talk to you. Give me your number. I did. And then I waited. 3 days passed. I jumped every time my phone buzzed. I checked my voicemail obsessively. I barely ate. On the third night, my phone rang. And no number. I answered on the first ring. Hello. A woman's voice, soft, shaking slightly. Is this Claire? Yes. A long exhale. This is Elena. For a few seconds, neither of us said anything. I could hear her breathing on the other end of the line. It was uneven, like she'd been crying. Or like she was trying very hard not to. I didn't think I'd ever hear from you, she said finally. Her voice was warm. A little raspy, kind. I found your letter, I told her. The one you left with my mother. Carol, she whispered, how is she? She died. 2 weeks ago. Silence. Then a soft, broken sound, something between a gasp and a sob. I'm so sorry, Elena said. I didn't know. God, I didn't know. She never told me, I said. My voice came out harder than I meant it to. She never told me about you. About any of it. I asked her not to. That stopped me. What? Elena took a shaky breath. When I gave you to her, I made her promise. I didn't want you to grow up feeling confused, or like you didn't belong, I thought. I thought it would be easier for you if you just had *1* mother. If you didn't have to carry the weight of knowing I gave you up. But you left a letter. I did, she admitted. I wrote it a few years later, when you would have been 5 or 6. I was in therapy, trying to work through everything, and my therapist told me I needed closure. So I wrote that letter thinking maybe someday, if Carol ever felt like it was the right time, she could give it to you. But I never pushed, I never reached out. I thought that was what you deserved, a clean, uncomplicated life. I pressed my palm against my forehead. But I didn't get that. Elena, I got a life where my mother barely talked to me. Where I always felt like something was missing, and I didn't know why. Her voice cracked. I'm so sorry. I need to meet you, I said. Another pause. Are you sure? Yes. Okay, she whispered. Okay. We agreed to meet at a coffee shop in San Diego the following Saturday. I drove down early in the morning, my stomach in knots the entire way. The coffee shop was small, tucked into a quiet neighborhood near the coast. I got there 15 minutes early and ordered a tea I didn't drink, just so my hands had something to hold. And then she walked in. I knew it was her immediately. She was small, maybe 5'3", with dark curly hair pulled into a low bun, streaked with gray. She wore a simple blue sweater and jeans. Her face was soft, kind, lined with the years I hadn't been part of. But her eyes were my eyes. Same shape, same deep brown color. Same way they crinkled slightly at the corners. She saw me, and her hand flew to her mouth. She walked over slowly, like she was afraid I might disappear. Claire, she said. And I stood up, not knowing what to do with my body, not knowing if I should hug her or shake her hand or just stand there. She made the decision for me. She pulled me into a hug, gentle, tentative, but real. And I let her. We sat down across from each other. For a while, neither of us knew where to start. Finally, Elena spoke. You look so much like my mother, she said, smiling through tears. You have her nose. Her hands. I looked down at my hands. I'd never thought about them before. Tell me everything, I said. I need to know everything. And she did. She told me about getting pregnant at 19. About how the father someone she'd met in community college had promised her the world. Then vanished the second things got real. She told me about her family. Traditional, religious. When she told them she was pregnant, her father told her to leave. She stayed with a friend for a while, but it wasn't sustainable. She worked at Rosita's diner long shifts, barely making rent. She kept me for 6 months, trying to make it work. But I was drowning, she said quietly. I couldn't give you what you needed. I could barely feed myself. I was so tired, all the time. And I was terrified I was going to ruin your life. So you met Carol. She nodded. She used to come in for lunch. Always ordered the same thing turkey sandwich. No mayo, side of fruit. She was kind. We started talking one day, and I don't know what came over me, but I just broke down. Told her everything. And she offered to take me. Not right away, Elena said. She thought about it for a few days. Then she came back and told me she'd been trying to have children 4 years. That she couldn't, that if I was willing, she would raise you. She promised she'd love you. She promised she'd give you everything I couldn't. Her voice broke. And I believed her. So I said yes. I had to ask, did you ever regret it? Elena looked at me, tears streaming down her face. Every single day, she whispered. Every single day, I wondered if I made the right choice. I wondered if you were happy. If you were safe. If you hated me. I didn't even know you existed. I know, and maybe that's better. Maybe that means Carol did her job. I shook my head. I don't know if it is better. I spent my whole life feeling like something was wrong with me. Like I didn't quite fit. And now I know why. Elena reached across the table and took my hand. You fit, Claire, you always did. You just didn't know the whole story. Elena pulled out her phone. There's something else, she said. After I gave you to Carol, we stayed in touch for about a year. She sent me photos, little updates. Then one day, she called me and asked if we could stop. She said it was too hard for both of us. That we needed a clean break if this was really going to work. She scrolled through her phone and pulled up a scanned image. But before we stopped talking, she sent me this. She turned the phone toward me. It was a letter, handwritten from Carol. It read, Asterisk Elena asterisk. Asterisk, I want you to know that Claire is thriving. She's healthy, curious, full of light. She laughs all the time. She loves books. She's everything I could have hoped for, asterisk. Asterisk, but I need to ask you for something. I need you to let me be her mother fully. Not because you aren't, but because she needs clarity. She needs to know, without doubt, that she is loved and wanted, asterisk. Asterisk, I will tell her the truth someday, when she's ready. When it won't break her, asterisk. Asterisk, but until then, please trust me. Trust that I will keep my promise, asterisk. Asterisk, I will love her like my own, asterisk. Asterisk, because she is asterisk. Asterisk Carol, asterisk. I read it twice. Then I set the phone down and put my face in my hands. We stayed at that coffee shop for hours. Elena told me about her life, how she went back to school, became a teacher, got married, had 2 more kids. She showed me pictures of my half-siblings, a boy and a girl, both in their teens now. Do they know about me? I asked. They do, she said. I told them a few years ago. I wanted them to know they have a sister out there. I didn't know how to feel about that. It was too much. All of it. But it was also, somehow, exactly what I needed to hear. I drove back to my mother's house that evening. The house felt different now, quieter, heavier. I sat on the floor of her bedroom, the letter in my lap, and I cried. Not because I was angry, but because I finally understood. Carol wasn't cold. She wasn't distant. She was scared. Scared I'd find out. Scared I'd feel betrayed. Scared I'd stop seeing her as my mother. She loved me the only way she knew how, by protecting me from a truth she thought would hurt me. She was wrong, but she tried. Over the next few weeks, I started going through the rest of her things. I found photo albums I'd never seen before, pictures of me as a baby, a toddler, a little girl. In every single one, she was smiling. Really smiling. I found a journal she'd kept during my first year. Entries about sleepless nights, first words, first steps. About how much she loved me. How scared she was of messing it up. One entry, dated a week after she'd brought me home, read, "Asterisk, I don't know if I'm doing this right. But I look at her, and I know this is what I was meant to do. She's mine. And I'm hers. And that's enough, asterisk." I closed the journal and held it against my chest. It was enough. A month later, I invited Elena back to my mother's house. We sat in the living room together, surrounded by boxes and memories. "I want you to have something," I said. I handed her a photo one of me and Carol from my high school graduation. We were both smiling. Carol's arm was around my shoulder. "She loved you," Elena said softly. "I know. And so do I." I looked at her. This woman who gave me life. This woman who made an impossible choice because she thought it was the right one. "I know that too," I said. "I'm not going to pretend this has a perfect ending. Because it doesn't. I still have hard days. Days where I feel angry at Carol for not telling me. Days where I feel angry at Elena for giving me up in the first place. But I also have days where I feel grateful. Grateful that two women loved me enough to make impossible choices. Grateful that I finally know the whole story. Grateful that I get to carry both of them with me now, not as a burden, but as a gift. I am Carol's daughter. And I am Elena's daughter. And I am my own person, too. That's the truth I'm learning to hold. The letter my mother hid for 20 years didn't destroy me. It set me free. Free to grieve the mother I lost. Free to know the mother I'd never met. Free to understand that identity isn't about where you came from. It's about who you choose to become. And I'm still becoming. If this story touched you, consider subscribing to *** stories that hit *** for more true-to-life emotional journeys. It means a lot.